is absolutely wild as Vern Gagne's All-Star Wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once if you would.
You want to see it?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
I feel like there are so many parts of that intro that we could use to describe our podcast. Let me see your hand. Of course, I turned the Andre into the Baron thing that shows you really how good I am at this, which means I'm not good because I suck. Two guys that suck just like I do, Polish Joe and Mick Karch.
I nibble a little too, though.
You nibble, good. You nibble. Go ahead, Mick. Your turn.
Tubbs, as usual, you're not giving us enough credit. We suck better than you do.
Oh, hold on.
However, you know, I mean, I'm you know, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, you know.
No, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I'm not either, really, and I'm sorry I said it.
That's all right. Hey guys, we don't have a lot of time today because I know that Polish Joe apparently he's got something to do. So
Yeah.
we're gonna.
It's that life thing.
Like, what is that?
Yeah,
If it's not wrestling, it ain't real.
exactly.
I mean, come on. Real life, family obligations, job obligations. I
Bunch
mean,
of bullshit.
I know. Joe's full of bullshit. But what we're going to do this week, you know what? We're going to bypass all of the promos. We're going to bypass a lot of the nonsense at the beginning in terms of the promoting and everything. Become a member of our Patreon. $5 a month, you guys. It's really worth it. It's good stuff. We had people in Waterloo that stopped us and told us how much they loved it. Let's get right into it because we are going to recap our weekend in Iowa at the Tragos Thesz Hall of Fame. And I just want to kind of kick it off by, oh boy, it kind of started interesting, Mick, and it kind of set the tone for our entire weekend.
You know, it really did. You and I, a couple of guys, just hungry on the road. All we wanted to do is grab a breakfast sandwich at McDonald's.
Hungry?
That's all we wanted to do.
No.
You know, I mean, is that too much to ask when a couple of, podcasters are heading to Iowa, 4-hour drive?
I mean, we don't ask for much in life, do we?
No. We tried it, but, as fate would have it, it didn't exactly go as planned, Chris. Why don't you, pick her up there and.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're in the Drive Thru, and I don't even know where, northern Iowa maybe, and we got the 2-lane Drive Thru, and we're like, okay. First of all, the guy's like, order when you're ready, please. We're like, okay, just a minute. So Mick, he's like, you know what? I got the app. Well, we're in the middle of nowhere, and the app's not going to work because for whatever reason, like dial-up doesn't work in the rural area down there. So then we're like, okay, we're ready to order. We're like, yo, and I see we were waiting for like 5 minutes, and finally like, I'm like, I don't know what they said, but we're gonna
sounded like the Baron on a podcast, Joe.
it did. So we ordered, and then we pay, we're ready for our food, sitting there, and all of a sudden this lady in front of us, it's like I felt the car had hydraulics. All of a sudden it's like it lifted up, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then she got out, and she's like, you have to back up. Like, we're in a drive-through. We've got a big truck behind us. I am backing up. She's like, you have to back up. And then she got out of her car. I'm like, okay, maybe she just, you know how when you go through a drive-through, you misjudge the window? I felt like maybe everybody except for Joe, because, he's like Stretch Armstrong. He can, he's got that wingspan. But she's like.
Gumby. Yeah.
Gumby, yes. So I'm like, okay, what is she doing? got back into a car, these hydraulics. I'm like, okay, this lady's got to be in her 70s. I'm like, this is just weird. And then she's like, I can't go anywhere. I'm like, what? She's like, my car won't move. Like, oh my God, what are we doing here? The kid in the window, he's like, lady, you put your emergency brake on. So she put her emergency brake on in the drive-thru at McDonald's. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how somebody puts their emergency brake on.
Was her name Karen by chance?
Don't.
When we got done with her, it was.
Oh my God! It was like, and then
and then she released that emergency brake, and like she went into orbit. She like lurched forward, and that was it. We never saw her again. So, hopefully she's all right.
Yeah, well, as long as she got her food. So that was kind of the first thing. And then I want you to. We kind of had this weird idea on the way down to. And I don't know what Mick's looking at because I was gonna send it to you. All right there, Mick?
Oh, I'm just fine. Just fine. Just thinking about how I should have ordered an extra sausage McMuffin, but it's too late now. Maybe next year.
And by the way, that was not the same lady. That was not the young lady that helped as well.
That's exactly right.
We had this idea for a weekend at Wally's, or what was it, Wally Wally weekend or something? Tell me.
Yeah, Wally, Waterloo, or something like a weekend with Wally's at
weekend with Wally. We were on our way down there, and I'm like, this would be a fun time for Wally Carbo to make an appearance. So I pulled out my phone, I gave it to Mick, and basically Wally narrated the drive going down to Iowa. And we did this throughout the course of the weekend. We didn't do it as much as I wanted to, but I think we might put that on the Patreon.
I think we should. And of course, with Wally narrating and being the GPS, we wound up in Indiana. He knew it started with an I. He, could have been Indiana, could have been Illinois. He knew there was an I there. Wally made several appearances, and he was a tour guide as only Wally could be a tour guide.
It was good. It was really good. It was just kind of something that was just kind of like, you know what? Let's just do this spur of the moment thing. And
there he is.
It kept us
awake.
It kept us entertained. I think it entertained us probably more than it would entertain anybody else. But I thought it was good stuff.
And if it plays out well on Patreon, we get another T-shirt.
There we
weekend
go.
with Wally, or something like that.
Yeah.
So let's get into the real stuff, so Chupik can get out of here.
Yeah. Well, this is, the thing about the Waterloo weekend, guys, and I'm gonna put the picture up here. What I enjoy about it is that it is really just so casual, so enjoyable. It doesn't feel like it's manufactured, right? To me, it does not feel like it's one of these conventions where it's money, picture, autograph out, money, picture, autograph out. It is it's something for fans, I feel, that they're able to really experience and get a chance to interact with other fans. There are a lot of people that I know that go down there by themselves, and they're like, I'm just meeting people here. So it's like, I don't know. It's a very different feeling. It's not corporate like a lot of other things, I think, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
No, that's great description, Chris. And the thing is, too, I mean, even with the legends signing pictures or what have you, in a lot of these conventions, you're herded through this long line. You might have 2 hours to wait to get the one autograph that you're looking for. At Waterloo, it was set up differently. The guys were at different tables, a big room, and you could go up to the guy who you wanted. Maybe he had a short line. Maybe his line was a little longer, but you weren't standing there forever. And the guys are so amenable. They are so easy to talk to. You're really literally getting close up and personal with your favorite wrestlers, your legends, and it's great.
Who are some of the guys that were down there?
Oh man.
It was from the Hall of Famers that were inducted. Tito was there. Jerry Briscoe, he's one of the board members. Kind of Nikita Koloff, Arn Anderson, Tony Schiavone, Don Fry was there. Don Fry had a fantastic speech.
Yeah.
UFC legend. Who else? Jazz. And she wasn't like inducted into the hall, but I'm just trying to think of like those that had autographs. Greg did it.
Bob Roop
did it. Dr. Tom did it. I think Rick McCord did it.
A
lot of people.
Cuban Assassin was there.
Yeah.
I
mean, every time you turn around, somebody else was coming in that you didn't know was going to be there, and that's
there were some of them that were there that I wasn't, I didn't think we're going to, but then there were some that I know were advertised, and I think the whole plane fiasco with the power and everything like that impacted, no pun intended, a lot of things because they couldn't get there because of travel complications, but. What's also nice about it is like not only at the convention, but just walking around the museum or being in the hotel. Like you see everybody you got fans sitting with wrestlers and promoters and there's no barriers, right? One thing that I like is that it's respectful. It is respectful. It's not these people that are coming in, the autograph hunters or the people that are waiting at the airport. Like, I feel like that's not if you're somebody that's going to stalk a wrestler at an airport for an autograph or a picture, this is not for you. Okay. You don't belong here. This is for the individuals that are respect the business, respect the privacy, and understand that there's a line between fan and friend. And I feel like everybody's friends. There's no fans. Everybody's friends, no matter who you are or where you're from. And I think it's a big difference in terms of feel for me, Nick.
It is, and the Hall of Fame itself is such an important thing because it's a legitimate Hall of Fame,
amateur and professional. And let's not forget about that because Dan Gable's a fucking monster. My God, the history of that museum. If you enjoy the history and you respect the history of the amateur and the professional game, this is the place to be. This is no offense to SummerSlam, this is the party of the summer.
Dan Gable, of course, welcomed everybody Thursday night, and you're listening to Dan Gable talk, and I can't emphasize enough, you are literally in the presence of greatness, and that's not hyperbole.
No, it's not.
Dan Gable was, without question, the greatest amateur wrestler of all time. There's just such a sense of history in this museum. And Chris, I want to just quickly go back to what you said about the intimacy of the event. The respect factor is what makes the wrestlers feel at ease. They feel comfortable to mingle with the fans and answer the questions and pose for pictures. And a lot of times, and in our case, the wrestlers would say, "Hey, come here. We want to get a picture with you guys before you go back to Minneapolis."
Which is really weird. It's weird for me to be approached by wrestlers to be like, "Hey, I want to take a picture with you." Like my feeble mind cannot handle that. And it's just a welcoming event. And Chad and Troy and Becca, and I know we're going to get to them later on, the work that they put in, my goodness gracious, it's mind-boggling to think about how much work they put in to make this event go off, at least for us on the outside, as smooth as possible.
Spectacular job, hardworking every year, but everything runs so smoothly, so precision. You wonder how the hell can they get it done. So, having teed it up, let's get out that one wood and start talking about what went on.
This, we talk about the history, and I think, Mick, you and I, especially, I feel very privileged to, when I go down there, number one, I get to hang out with you. And that's not hyperbole. because you are a legend in your own right, whether or not you want to admit it.
Hold on, am I on the right podcast here? We're being nice to each other.
I feel like this is my obligatory 3 minutes of niceness to have per year. Yes. Yeah. Hold on. I got to take Mick out of this so he doesn't hear it. Okay. So to be able to hang out with Mick and to be able to see how much he's revered, but to also be able to hang out with the Hennigs, Lenise and Hank, to hang out with those two individuals and the amount of respect and admiration that they have for the Hennigs. Okay. I'm moving on to putting over the Hennigs, not you, Mick. So now
I dozed off. Well, it's not about me.
No.
The Hennigs were actually, this serious, Joe, were as revered as some of the legends.
Yes.
I mean, people would say, hey, what? That's Kurt Hennig's kid and his widow. And they would flock around Hank and Lenise like they were superstars. And it was so gratifying, especially for Hank. Hank he's a pretty emotional guy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the memories come flowing back when he's in a certain situation. And people were just so respectful. He had a great time. Lenise had a great time. And I know we've got a series of Hennig pictures that we're going to put up. There you go. That is Tito Santana, along with Lenise and Hank Hennig. And, of course, when Tito saw the two of them, it was, it was really emotional stuff. Big hug for Lenise. Was thrilled to meet with Hank. And that was just one of the many, many moments.
Yeah, I've got, I'm going to put up a few more here, guys. Here's the one. I don't know why I'm putting this one up now. It's just labeled number 2. Hanging out with Hank and getting to really understand the genuine individual that he is. He is as humble a kid as you are going to meet, considering the name and the history and just the respect that people showed him. There's a picture, and I haven't looked at it yet, guys. I took one this weekend. I don't want to give it away yet, but here's another one where we're at the Impact Wrestling show. Mick, that's you, Lenise, Hank, and I, and it was just, I felt like it was hanging out with friends. Just very, very approachable, very courteous. You mentioned just the way that they were approached. But I don't want to make this about us. There's another picture. Well, you mentioned Tito. How about JBL? Let's say, JBL's reaction when he saw them, because JBL is one of those that you don't feel like maybe he wouldn't be as approachable. But here's this. I thought JBL seeing Lenise and Hank, it goes beyond words. The smile and just the genuine enjoyment from a big guy like John. He just seemed like a teddy bear around them.
It was really interesting. We saw John Thursday night, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he made mention to me. He says, I trained in Minnesota. Really? I trained with Brad Ringans. And, the story that he told about Brad just salivating when he saw this big 6'7" football player coming in. Brad couldn't wait to get his hands on him and stretch him on the mat, which, of course, he did. JBL's tongue was hanging out like a necktie. But John also, and he's asking about Brad Ringans. And I said, well, I don't know how to get a hold of him. But tomorrow, the Hennigs are going to be here. Lenise and Hank are going to be here. And my God, he just lit up. And what happens when the guys meet Hank and Lenise, if they don't know right away who they are, and you say, this is so-and-so, the admiration for Kurt is phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
Oh, my God. To a man, to a wrestler, to a fan, everybody, oh, my God, he was the greatest. And what a wonderful guy he was. And I remember the bumps he used to take. And this is coming from guys like JBL and Jerry Briscoe and Arn Anderson. I mean, this is a genuine love affair for Curt Hennig. And the Hennigs, Lenise and Hank, and again, we don't want to make the whole show about them, although for our weekend, it was a lot about them.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
They loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I think you got another photograph.
Yeah, I've got a few different ones. Now they were asked to bring a pair of ring-worn boots to the Hall of Fame this weekend, and this is Hank with Curt. And I asked. I mean, I'm friends with. I feel like we're friends now, and I asked if I could actually and he's like, yeah, and he let me hold it and actually look at it, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of like nostalgia, being able to look at ring-worn boots by Curt Hennig, and just to be able to see that, and you see the joy in his face. Mick, I think one thing, and I don't think it's hyperbole, that I don't think a lot of people have gotten a chance to, people know about Amy, people know about Joe. I feel like Hank is just kind of, he's kind of not as well known because he's not out there, right? He's not currently in the business. But when you hear people talk about Curt to him, like I feel like he's finding a whole new world about people that really appreciated his dad. And what I enjoyed was being there basically with him the entire weekend. I mean, we were like, we were hanging out the entire weekend. But you're right. It's like, hey, by the way, Curt Hennig's son. Oh, no, yeah. And it's just like people are just like so fascinated by that. But we do have those pictures. Go ahead, Joe.
It's just a testament to how great Curt Hennig was. As much of a ribber as he was, and we all have our demons. Curt Hennig deserves to be in the conversation for one of the all-time greatest professional wrestlers.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely. There's one. I don't know. Maybe Hank and I were partying someplace else, but you and Lenise in the nightlife of Waterloo, right there, huh?
Yeah, so to speak.
Is that before we crossed the bridge? No, we never crossed the bridge. We got close to crossing the bridge.
Yeah, we never crossed the bridge. I think this was prior to Lenise and I going to get the pizza. But Lenise Hennig, another one, Lenise does not seek the limelight. As a matter of fact, she probably shies away from it, if anything. So, we can't say enough good things about the Hennigs. And again, as far as what you said about Hank, when they talk about his dad, instantly, there's the waterfall going. You can see it coming. And he absolutely adored Curt Hennig. You mentioned that Hank stays in the back. He's not part of the business. This is all new. I mean, within the last couple of years, this is new for both Hank and Lenise to attend events like this. So again, so much of the weekend was wrapped around the Hennigs and showing them around and introducing them to people and reuniting them with people. Have you got that photograph of when you and Hank?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's.
See, the thing is, you cannot throw a suggestion out to me and to Hank, especially after we've imbibed a little bit, and ask us not to. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to explain the picture that we're about to see?
Yeah, we are at the hotel, and we're kind of in a room by ourselves because the crowd was getting a little loud, a little raucous. And we're having some pizza, and all of a sudden, there's an arcade right next to us where there's a little automobile, a miniature automobile. Now, mind you, neither of these guys is Sky Low size. And, Chris Tubbs, I believe, had this idea. Hey, look at that car. Hank, why don't you and I go get into this vehicle? Chris was mesmerized by the lights and the glitz of an arcade for 7-year-olds, and he decided that he and Hank were going to share the front seat of this. All that was missing was a big drive-in movie screen, and these guys would have been right at home. God knows what would have happened, but it was a touching moment.
Chris, you now know what it felt like for Andre to sit into a convertible sports car.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. And then Lenise asked us, hey, give us a big toothy grin. Well, okay. And granted, this, again, this is not middle of the afternoon. This is what, like maybe 2:30 in the morning?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we're there, and
a lot of teeth there. A lot of toothy grin.
Big toothy grins. But I think what I'll take away from this is one thing I enjoyed, Mick, and you mentioned this, and I do want to kind of get into this little story that happened, because I really enjoyed being able to say, just out of nowhere, it's like, hey, this is Curt Hennig's son. They're like, what? No. But there was one incident where I think you had gone up to your room for something, and Hank had gone outside. And and we're kind of skipping around here, but Hank had gone outside, and Lenise and I are like, where's Hank? Like, I don't know. So we went outside and, went to the outside the patio of the bar. Well, Hank was there. I think he was talking with, was he talking with Gary DeRouche's kid? I don't know. So we got there, and Lenise and I went over and sat down we went down and sat next to Hank and a couple of other, guys that were there. And then, we're talking about, whatever. And Hank had this thing throughout the weekend where when guys would walk by and nobody knew who he was, they'd go, I love you. He'd just say this, I love you. And people would just be like, hey, I love you too. Just a good old time. So I'm walking away. I'm like, Hank, you got something to say to me? He's like, I love you. And I'm like, yes, Mr. Perfect's kid said that he loves me. Yeah. So I get outside the gate, and some guy's like, that's not Mr. Perfect's kid. I look, and I'm like, what? I had no idea who this guy was. It was like a group of 6 guys that were over like near the patio smoking a cigar, having a couple beers. He's like, that's not Mr. Perfect's kid. I know Mr. Perfect's kids, and he's not it. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, no. I'm like, whoa, you mean to tell me? And I'm like, not shouting, but I'm talking loudly, hanging over this exit fence, just kind of looking back into the bar like, you don't think that that's Mr. Perfect's kid and Mr. Perfect's wife? No, that's not it. The Hennigs come down here. They come down here in droves. I'm like, well, those 2 came down here in 2s. and he's like, no, that's not it. I'm like, how much you want to bet? He's like, man, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. I got back in. I walked in, and all of a sudden I could see like this group of guys is like, I'm like, all right, what you got? How much you want to bet that that's Mr. Perfect's kid? And I'm like, Hank. And he looked, I'm like, you want to show him your ID? He's like, oh, you mean my state issued legal ID? And I'm like, okay. Hank's in on the bit. So I go over there. All of a sudden I'm like, all right, what you guys got? The guy's like, I got 5, I got 10, I got 10. I pulled out my debit card. I'm like, here's my debit card. I said, here's my phone. Here's my car keys. I will give you my car keys, my house keys, my phone, and my debit card to prove that you guys don't know who that is. And they're like, oh, damn, this guy brought plastic. And then, this guy's going to Google.
You don't see that very often in Iowa.
Yeah, and this other guy's like, he's looking at Google. I'm like, no. Turn your fucking phone off. So you do not Google this shit. If you're going to Google this shit, you tell me that I'm wrong. And they're like, well, I was here when Mr. Perfect was inducted. I'm like, okay, so I wasn't. So I went over and I got Hank, and we went back over there, and people are like, they had the Google, and they're like, oh yeah, I think that's really him. I think that's really him. So then Hank gets over there, and they're like, they were just kind of being a little smart ass to him. They're like, oh yeah, so about your dad? And Hank's just very soft spoken, very chill. He's like, yeah, my dad. This. They asked him about Larry. Yeah, this. And this guy's like, he's like, well, I was here in 2007 when your dad was inducted. And he's like, yeah, so was I. And it just completely diffused the whole thing. And then one of the guys was like, I looked down. I didn't collect any money because I just wanted to prove a point. And this guy, when Hank and I started walking over, I'm like, yeah, these guys don't believe that you are, who I say that you are. And then it's just like they parted. Like all of these guys wanted nothing to do with the guy that was talking shit. He's like, no. This wasn't all of us. This wasn't all of us. I don't lump us in with that. And this person's like, oh man, I always loved the Hennigs. And I'm like, you motherfucker, you are so full of shit. 2 minutes ago, I could have eaten your fucking lunch. But then they're like,
you're a little revved up over this Hennig situation.
Well, I'm just don't call me a fucking liar.
Well,
dude. I could have paid. I could have paid for my whole trip. I could have paid for my whole trip thanks to these marks.
But you didn't take any money.
I didn't take any money. No, I was.
I
nice.
want you to breathe. I want you to breathe.
Dude, it like got me hot. And it's just, I don't know. It's like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to call, it's like, why out of anybody am I going to say that that's Mr. Perfect's wife? And like, why am I going to say they're relatives? Am I just going to pull a name out of thin air? I don't know. That was like, it just got me so hot. It got me so hot.
Without your skin, you'd be a fountain right now. With the blood pressure. We got your point. Hank is who he is. Lenise is who he is. You are who you are. You didn't accept any money. There's no plastic in Iowa. What else happened in Waterloo this weekend?
Okay, I'm sorry. I will move on. Do I have the picture of the three of them after the Impact show?
I believe you do.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so I after the Impact show on Saturday night, we were at the bar. Those three, Hank, Wes Briscoe, Brock Anderson, this is one of those pictures that's going to, I feel like, stand the test of time. The first time ever that Curt Hennig, Jerry Briscoe, and Arn Anderson's sons in the same place at the same time. This is one of those pictures that I feel it had to be taken. If anything else, you had to take a picture of these three guys together.
This is what Hank referred to as the generations picture. And it was. Yes. I mean, how often, first of all, they're in different parts of the country. It's not an obvious thing that they're going to get together at any point in time. And this, as you said, this will absolutely go down as one of the great pictures. Generations indeed. Hank Hennig, Wes Briscoe, and Brock Anderson, and they became instant buddies, instant allies, and another great moment. Great moment.
That is a classic photo.
Isn't that something? So, folks, if you want to take a screenshot, that would be the picture to take. It's pretty amazing stuff.
And Arn's kid looks a lot like Arn.
No kidding.
And he works like, you watch him work a whole match and you're like, oh my God, that is Arn's kid. That is Arn's kid. So let's get, off of things with the Hennig, because it was a great weekend hanging out with them and seeing the respect that they had. I helped Nick Dinsmore in his promotion in Sioux Falls, and one of the things that we did is we worked with some guys in Omaha, Magnum Wrestling. And one of the guys, the guy that ran it was Nathan Blodgett, who was known as Jason Strife. And he passed away a while back due to an illness. But I did not know that the Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame was going to be there. And I saw this, and this was something that's personal for me to see the Jason Strife, I don't know, the memorial, the program, and then to see his gear, his Yellow Dog, his Jason Strife gear. This one really got to me, and I might be the only one that's affected by this, but this was my friend who I knew and who I worked with, and it was really cool to see all of the history that Nebraska had. I had no idea it was going to be there, so I had to take a picture of the Jason Strife and the Yellow Dog, because that was just one of his gimmicks, and it got to me. So I thank you guys for letting me put that up, because that's that's something that's very near and dear to my heart because I miss Jason Strife all the time. He might have been an asshole, but he was our asshole, and that's what I love about him. So, Mick, I'm going to put up some more pictures here, and I'm just going to kind of let you go through it here.
All right, if I can remember what I'm looking at here.
All right, let me.
A couple of libations this weekend, Mick?
No, what are you talking about? The milk drinker? There's a great picture. We had old Jumpin' Jimmy Brunzell this AWA Unleashed hoodie for a long time, and we had set up meetings that unfortunately did not take place. Chris said, you know what, I'm bringing the hoodie down to Waterloo. We knew that Jim was going to be there, and Jim and Chris met in the morning.
Because you could not be bothered to get up. Right?
Chris and Jim met in the morning.
Yes, and, exactly. Exactly. We were going to meet him, and Mick's like, oh, I'm tired. I'm just going to sleep in. Can you go give this to Jim? I'm like, dude, I'm working on like 2 hours of sleep. But yeah, okay, I'll do it. But no, yeah, it was great.
Oh, yeah, you forced yourself to do it. Anyway,
I did.
There's a picture of Chris and Jim was absolutely delighted not only to get the hoodie, but, we got Jim Brunzell out there repping AWA Unleashed, and good moment. Great guy, Jumpin' Jim. Was always good to see him. What else we got there, buddy?
I'm working here. I know it's kind of a lot of things that we're going through here, but because my bar story with the Hennigs took up so much time, but it's always a good release. Here is one of the nicest guys in or out of the business. Just man, what a guy. What a guy.
James Beard, the greatest referee in the history of the business, and that is not overstating the case. He refereed some matches for Impact Wrestling Saturday night. James opened the door to get for us to get a lot of pictures with the guys. And as you said, Chris, as nice a guy as you would ever find in the business. Every time you see James Beard, it's not us that says, hey, James, how you doing? It's James that calls us over and makes us feel very welcome. And anytime we can see him, it is just a thrill. There we go. We talked about Jumpin' Jim. Now, this is interesting. At the banquet itself, Jumpin' Jim sat with his high flyer tag team partner, Greg Gagne. However, at the autograph signing, it was Killer Bees Day. So there he is with B. Brian Blair at their merchandise table at the autograph signing. So Jim kind of did double duty there, kind of split his loyalties between the Bees and the Flyers.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable how he was there with Greg and he was also there with Brian, and you can look at him in both ways and say that both of those are iconic tag teams.
Our AWA fans will look at this and they go, hey, my God, they honored George Gdansky.
George Gdansky.
At the Hall of Fame. No, this is not, with all due respect to George, this is the robe of scrap iron Adam Pearce, our good friend, and God bless him. What a wonderful tribute to Adam, a former NWA multi-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and they deemed Adam worthy of having a display in the Hall of Fame, and I think that is absolutely great. One of the great guys in the business, one of the great minds for professional wrestling in our buddy Adam Pearce.
I have to admit, when you sent me the pictures like you do every show, Mick, and I get them formatted and whatever cleaned up, and I saw that and I'm like, what the hell is George Gdansky doing in the Iowa Hall of Fame? Of course, split second later I realized it was for Adam Pearce, but like you said, AWA fans, first thing you think
that's where your mind goes.
That's where your mind goes. Yep. What else we got, Chris?
Speaking of good minds in the business, here's one of them. No, I'm just kidding. Two of them. I'm just kidding. Our buddy Rock Riddle.
Rock Riddle. God bless him. I know he's a septuagenarian, if not an octogenarian. Rock actually wrestled on the Impact show, wrestled James Jeffries, missed the original Mr. Wonderful, as he says, Rock Riddle, and he still cuts your old standard 25-minute heel promo. And
we timed it, yes.
Yeah, he kind of went on a little bit, but there he is again with James Beard. Rock Riddle, legendary in the business. You can see Rock coming down the hall in the sequin jackets. I mean, it's almost like you're at a 60s LSD party, watching Rock Riddle come down the hall with the flashing lights and everything else. Love the guy. There's our friend Joyce Paustian with Sergeant Slaughter. And of course, Sarge has been a friend of Joyce's going back to the 1970s. Sarge was such a great, amenable, approachable guy, and Joyce, of course, got to sit with Sarge at his merchandise table. It's always great to see Sarge, and needless to say, he had one of the longer lines to buy his merchandise. And just another great moment. Two great friends again reuniting, Joyce and the Sarge.
With Sarge there, did Greg have his fatigues on?
God, no. And,
Oh, that would have been so good.
Oh, no, it wouldn't. This is, we can have Joe jump in here because, Chris, I know this was a moment for you. That is the Vern Gagne figure from Power Town.
Yep.
And Greg was actually selling these figures along with other AWA merchandise. And you had the honor of having Greg actually sign the figure in lieu of Vern's, of course, absence.
I did. I actually I came away, you guys, I only bought one thing the entire weekend. I bought one thing the entire weekend, and it was a Vern Gagne Power Town figure, had it signed by Greg. And you know what? It's right here.
Nice.
Right here. And I'm very proud of it right here. I love it. It's, it's the details on these are so good, and it's heavier and it's more durable. You can definitely tell there's more work and effort and detail that's put into this. So for wrestling fans, if you're going to get any brand of wrestling figure, Power Town. This is what you want. Anything else is going to be mid. This is absolutely the premier. This is the preeminent figure in line of wrestling figures.
And I have to say thank you for that plug.
For the cheap plug, thank God we didn't have to hear you do it again, Chupik. But, nice job. Excellent job by Chris. He even had two preeminents in there. And I don't know that you've done that over the past several weeks.
No, I've
Great
never
to
done
see
that.
Greg.
I'm more preemptible than preeminent.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That is, yes.
It was always great to see Greg, by the way. Greg gave a very emotional speech as well. Very accessible. Greg seemed to be in his element. He was not the, sometimes Greg can be a little bit, just kind of, I'll be over here. But he was mingling with the fans, and they loved him.
And for the record, Greg said hi to me when we got there before he said hi to you. For the record, we were walking in, and Greg was there with his girlfriend. He's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And then he's like, "Oh, hi, Mick." So I just want to put that Greg Gagne. I think I
don't remember it quite that way, but that's okay. Okay. You have your moment here. Put yourself over. Don't Barry Horowitz, pat yourself on the back. We got anything else that happened besides you?
Oh, we do. Well, speaking of putting myself over,
here we go.
One of the lines that Brock Anderson had was, "You can definitely tell I'm my father's offspring."
Oh God,
which is great. So we've got that. That was fun. We're gonna go ahead and buzz through because we've also got something else that happened that weekend that we didn't get a chance to tell. And it's something that Joe's gonna play. I'm just trying to get through a bunch of these here because I know we're really running out of time.
Joe's got to get going. So you and I are going to have to carry it through here.
I do have a family matter I got to unfortunately deal with that came up last minute, but I'm enjoying these picks. God, I wish I would have been there.
Next year, buddy.
Do we want to play the video and then Mick and I can come back to this?
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right. Yeah, we'll come back to it. Let's go to this, Joe, before you have to leave. And this is like the real part, the messy part of the podcast, because we do have like other things that we actually do have to do then outside. So there was a video that was played at the Hall of Fame. I was not aware it was going to. I don't think anybody was aware that it was going to be played. But I'm going to let Mick. I'm going to let you pitch it to Joe, and then Joe, you can play it from there.
This was an emotional moment. Our friend Al DeRusha, we've talked about, that Al is not in a good way physically right now. He is really battling some serious shit. And he managed to get down to Waterloo. The family took him down. And by hook or crook, he was going to make his way to the Hall of Fame induction. And Joe put together an amazing video tribute to Al, and Al literally was sitting with his head in his hands and the tears were flowing. And nice job, Polish Joe. Great to have Al get that moment in front of the crowd.
Yeah, so the videos, I actually produced it several years ago and updated it for this Hall of Fame recognition. Al has been inducted. Well, you know what? I'm just going to play it, and
Absolutely.
It will tell you everything that you need to know about the career of my dear friend, Al DeRusha. Let's see. There you go, Chris. Here we go. 1935, and was the youngest and 4 boys. He was born near Harriet Island in St. Paul, Minnesota. Al was just 8 years old when he started working for Leo Magel's Carnival game concessions on the bassinet shows. He worked and traveled with carnivals until 1953. As a senior at Humboldt High School in St. Paul, Al enrolled in a school program that placed him in many parts.
Hey, Joe, I think we have to turn the volume up on that one because it's when you muted, it muted that.
Shows of the era. Al DeRusha directed Brunswick Casey for most of its 2 decades on the air.
Couldn't wait to get to work the next day. Hey, Hey! Another great fit they did was Jimmy Durante. It ain't Miss Betty in a romper room. Because there was so much.
He directed live remotes and election night broadcasts, including an election that featured future Vice President Hubert Humphrey. Al also directed all major Minnesota sports, including the Twins, North Stars, and Vikings, as well as college and high school sports. Al is an 8-year veteran of the Naval Reserve and was even certified as a correspondent with credentials to do stories for military documentaries. Starting in 1961, Al directed the weekly show for the American Wrestling Association.
All Star Wrestling.
He was also a promoter, a ring announcer,
This will be a 2 out of 3 fall match.
did play-by-play, and even was a referee for Hulk Hogan and a wrestler who would be the future governor of the state of Minnesota, Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, the table has gone over.
In 1985, Al's expertise in wrestling landed him a job with Vince McMahon's WWF. Al's career in the amusement industry began in the 1960s. He was inducted into the Midwest Showmen's Association and the Showmen's League of America Halls of Fame. He is currently the Senior Vice President of the Outdoor Amusement Business Association, a trade association for the mobile amusement industry. Despite the many hours away from home, Al has always found time for his family. He and his wife Marlene just celebrated their 69th anniversary. They have 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren. Al DeRusha's career in show business spans a remarkable 72 years. Al has worked with and directed more than 36 members of the Minnesota Broadcast Hall of Fame. From Lunch with Casey Jones and Roundhouse Rodney to Mel Jazz's matinee movies to the AWA. Al has been an integral part of the television industry in Minnesota. He is a member of the Minnesota Broadcast Hall of Fame, and today, Alvin Joseph DeRusha is honored to receive this recognition from the Tragos Thesz Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame.
And that is all you need to know.
Well done, Joe. Well done,
Joe.
And well deserved, Al DeRusha. What a guy.
Yep. I know you got to get going, and we'll finish it up without you, Joe.
I appreciate it. And I do apologize to our viewers. Family situation came up.
Nope, we got you.
Deal with, but I do have to say, I've had a special friendship with Al. One that for the last it goes beyond the AWA, goes beyond me working with him with the OABA and the Showman's League of America. I do truly consider him to be an absolute dear friend, and to see him going through what he's going through right now physically, and it's not good, but to hear that he teared up when watching that video, even though he has seen it before. I mean, he actually helped me produce it, but to hear that he teared up, I didn't want to say that it was a goal of mine for him to do that, but it just warms my heart that I could tug at Al's heartstrings at a time where it's doubtful that he'll be with us by the end of this calendar year. And for him to receive this honor from the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and for him to make it down there, truly warms my heart to a point that, the eyes are welling up. So Al, thank you. Or as many who lived during that generation called him, Captain Kangaroo, because he looked more like Captain Kangaroo than Captain Kangaroo did.
He does, yeah.
So anyway, take care, guys. I will see you on the next episode.
Got it.
Take it home for me.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. I'm going to remove Joe. I knew that we were working with limited time with Joe, so I was trying to buzz through a lot of these pictures. But now that he's off kind of doing his thing, you don't mind if I just kind of pace it a little bit more, Mick? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I don't want to short any of the experiences. That's the thing. I don't want to sit here and be like, well, we did this and this, and keep looking at the time and be like, okay, we've only got a limited amount of time. But I did want to get that video in there.
Absolutely. Because
it was a big part of the night, at least for me. The speeches were great, but I'm gonna if you want to talk about that, I'm gonna kind of reset myself and kind of look at the document and kind of see where we're at, so we can slowly kind of ease our way back into it.
Yeah, first of all, in terms of Al DeRusha, AWA fans of the All-Star Wrestling TV show know Al and everything he did for the AWA. He and Roger Kent were promoting what they call spot shows in the upper Midwest back in the 1970s. Just did everything, as Joe said, referee, commentator, ring announcer, so on. And that's just in the wrestling business. Everything else that Al did is legendary, and that's why he's in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to talk to him. There was a sea of people between myself and Al at the end of the night, and he had already been, in his wheelchair taken back to his hotel room. But love Al DeRusha. Job well done, Joe Chupik. And we got some more stuff other stuff happened.
We do. And I think like the underlying theme was friendship. I think
Absolutely.
that's probably and not to sound like it's all corny and shit, but you know, this is one of my favorite pictures, just because that's our friend Gloria. And what kind of you can set it up, Mick, because you're the storyteller here. I want you to kind of tell the significance of this picture.
Gloria Lovell has been involved in the wrestling business first as a fan. She's from Denver, still lives in the Denver area, herself and her husband. She's been a fan going back to the 1970s. So, you know, we see Gloria at all the events. She coordinates so much for these Hall of Fame weekends, just does fantastic work, you know, easing the load of, you know, Troy and Chad and so forth. Can't say enough good things about Gloria. Well, we're sitting at a trivia contest, which, you know, sad to say, the AWA Unleashed crew did not do very well.
Well, in our defense, there's a reason why we didn't do as well as we normally would have. And we'll get to that in just a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Always an excuse for us, but
yeah, it's never my fault.
This is a great picture. I love this because it's you know, Chris, of course, myself and Gloria, and we're taking this or getting this picture taken, and all of a sudden here that I feel this you know, whatever it is, this medicine ball on the on my shoulder.
Yep, that's me.
And I look over, the medicine ball with a beard. I look over and hear this display of affection by our esteemed leader, Chris Tubbs.
Well, she was like, they're like, okay, you know, pretend that you love each other. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give Mick a hug and I'm going to put my head on his shoulder, you know, for shit.
And you notice how thrilled I was.
Yeah, I tried to get you to pop, but you were just like, I need a restraining order against this guy.
Yeah, that was
you did not give me consent, but you know, that's okay.
Well, that's a problem, but you're right. It's supposed to be 500 feet. And, you know, all of a sudden there you are, but I won't pursue charges. But that was a great time. And Gloria, we absolutely love you. I'm trying to get her on the podcast because she's got old Denver AWA stories that we want her to share.
And she's a big fan of the podcast, not to put herself over.
Yeah.
But she's a big fan of the podcast. Got a few more here, guys. Say, I'm just talking about you. We had a chance to meet up with a lot of our friends and people that enjoy the podcast. And it's not about the podcast again. It's about the camaraderie. And we didn't get all of the pictures, but there's some on your Facebook page, Mick. There's some on mine. Maybe I'll throw some on and maybe on the Unleashed page, just to kind of give people a feel. But first time that we have had a chance to meet our friend Brian Ferguson from Springfield, Missouri, by the way, where my wife graduated, a graduate of Missouri State. He and his wife were up there first time, and it was so cool to run into Brian.
Brian has a podcast of his own, and he is just
Bumps and Thumps, by the way. Yep. Bumps and Thumps, yep. Brian Ferguson.
He is such a wrestling fan, and you know, I can't say enough good things about this guy. And he came up to us when we were starting to do our trivia contest. And I don't think Brian was feeling any pain, so to speak, when he approached our table. But nonetheless, it was so good to see him. And just a quick reference, Chris, I know you talk about the friendship. They call the Cauliflower Alley Club the Ring of Friendship. I would go on record as saying the Waterloo Hall of Fame is every bit as much the Ring of Friendship. You know, I don't want to steal it, you know, gimmick infringement, but to see guys like Brian and Rusty Rex and everybody like that, all our buddies, was just great. So there we go.
Here's another one. Our friend David Salchow, who was there, had a great time hanging out with David too. Like, I mean, and can you believe I'm younger than he is, and I've got gray hair and more fat. Like, how can I be younger than him and look like I do?
Well, you know, first of all,
he's got to be like something cryogenic. I mean, the guy's in shape, and I'm bulbous.
he looks great, and I really was hoping that you wouldn't bring up, pot bellies and out of shape and gray hair. I was hoping that we wouldn't. You must be referring to that guy in the background there.
Yeah. Because I'm a physical specimen.
Certainly can't a specimen of subtype. But I want to talk about David Salchow, and I'm getting ahead of myself because he's my shout out for this week. And I'm going to do it right now because David says to me, I got something for you. I got a little gift for you, and I will keep it at the front desk. And this is unsolicited, and I have no idea what this is, And I get there, and what it was, one of my idols in the wrestling business is Stan Crusher Kowalski. Everybody knows that. And here David went out and got a glass framed picture, probably 24 by 36, full size of Stan Kowalski. It will be on the wall behind me for our next podcast, but it just blew me away because he didn't have to do this. He supports us in every way, shape, and form. The podcast, the Unleashed page, the Slick Mick page. Can't say enough good things about David. Want to publicly thank him. That really touched me to get that picture of Stan. So thanks, David. That's my early shout out too, by the way.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm just going to go back and give my shout out now to Gloria, because to be able to just sit there and talk with her on Thursday night during the trivia and hear her stories. And she's a big supporter of the podcast. And, it's fun because I went over, I'm like, hey, these seats taken. And she's like, yeah, I got a couple people that are going to be here. It's Greg and his girlfriend. And all of a sudden she's like, Chris. And I'm like, Gloria? And she's like, well, and at that point she got a text from Greg and they were not going to be there. She's like, you guys are going to sit next to me. We're going to sit here. So I'm like, okay, if Gloria's going to tell me to sit next to her, I mean, who am I to tell her no? I mean, it was so much fun. And if you want to know, and I'm going to see if I've got it. I want to know if there's a reason why we did not do well at the trivia contest. This is why. There was, I may have been preoccupied with a little bit of alcohol that night, because I mean, when you're with James Beard, Jerry Briscoe, and by the way, you'll have to tell the story about JBL's line at the Hall of Fame. JBL, Jerry Briscoe, James Beard, and there's Gloria right there. You and Attila were unfortunately cut out of the picture. But this is the reason why. I mean, I got a little, preempted, a little preoccupied.
JBL, I think we mentioned at last year's Waterloo Hall of Fame. Jerry Briscoe actually had a medical emergency last year. He had been doing some traveling, very scary. At the actually prior to the trivia event last year, Jerry was taken out of the hotel by ambulance on a gurney. He was extremely dehydrated. He had been on the road prior to the Waterloo Hall of Fame. Well, this year, JBL he's up on stage and he's referring to Jerry Briscoe because Jerry made some mention about JBL's drinking habits, and Jerry got it. He got it back in spades because JBL says, "Don't talk to me about my drinking and me being here. You died last year, and here you are back again." And I mean, that was, he kind of brought the house down. JBL and Jerry Briscoe, of course, have a tremendous friendship, tremendous relationship.
They've got their own podcast too, and do a great
job. But
I
mean, for you, don't downplay this, imbibing a little bit.
Yeah.
Listen, you and Briscoe and JBL and James Beard, literally by the end of the night, you were on the floor and people were siphoning drinks right from the keg, right from the bar, into your open mouths, and you looked like a game of whack-the-mole. Every once in a while, one of you would pop up and get another drink, and that's kind of how it went. We left a little bit early because that would probably still be there.
Yeah, I cannot keep up with those Texas boys. I will admit, I'm not as good as I once was, according to Toby Keith.
Hey, the Oklahoma guy didn't do too badly either.
No.
Jerry Briscoe, he
did
right.
not. let's take it a little bit closer to home here, Mick. At the Hall of Fame, you had a chance, and this is a story that I want to get into, and I think you know where I'm going to be going with it. If I can find the picture. Okay, here's the picture of you and the Minnesota Crew. I want you to tell me who everybody is, and then, well, you tell us who everybody is, and then I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what we heard from last year, because I have a couple of questions, and you know where I'm going with this.
Sadly, I do. Starting from the left, that's referee Jay Soltis, he is actually the senior official in the state of Minnesota for wrestling. He has been around a long, long time. Actually was brought into the Waterloo Hall of Fame by Impact Wrestling, refereed a match on the show. I've known Jay back to the Saturday night at ringside days. Then there's me. All of a sudden, I'm 4'2". To my left, or your right, that is Sterling Nolan. He is one half of the legendary, notorious Minnesota High Rollers tag team combination, along with his partner, the late Jerry Anderson. And on your far right, that's Tim Larson. Tim has been a journalist and a wrestling promoter here in the state of Minnesota for a long, long time, so many years. Always great to reunite with the Minnesota Crew, and we had to get that one picture in there. So go ahead.
Okay. No, well, I'm gonna leave this picture up, and I'm gonna take it out of full screen. I'm gonna put it half screen there. Okay, so we sat next to some people. We didn't know these guys, but again, it's about making friendships when we were there. So you and I are sitting there, and the Hennig showed up later, but we were talking with like 4 guys, and they mentioned a story that Sterling told them last year about fighting over a woman on the Jerry Springer show. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah. The High Rollers, this may have been the lowest rated show in the history of the Springer show, but the High Rollers, Sterling Nolan and Jerry, or Sticks and Mago, as they were known back in the day, they got on the Springer show, and they portrayed 2 guys who were fighting over the same woman, whose nickname was Baby. As it turned out, and as was revealed towards the end of the show, Baby was in fact a blow-up doll. Don't look around, Tubbs. You know exactly what I'm talking. Yeah, yours are in the closet. Full size blow-up doll, Baby. That the High Rollers were arguing over. I don't know who wound up with Baby, or all of a sudden, hate to say, a hole got put in Baby.
Hole got punctured.
Yeah, she's like flying around the room. I don't know about that.
Nobody puts Baby in a corner.
Nobody. And but that led to a phone call that I got.
I can't believe this. Did this really happen? Let me ask you this, because can I just say the words and you go, because I really want to say this phrase.
Yeah, absolutely.
A sex-crazed televangelist. Did I get my?
You did. You got it right. No matter how you put the words in there, pal. Craved sex, evangelist, however you want to do it.
Okay.
I got a call from the High Rollers when they came back from doing the Jerry Springer show, and they said, "Hey, you know what? They'd like to get you on the show." We talked to the producers, and you can appear on the Jerry Springer show, Mick. I said, "Oh, no kidding." And, I forget who I was working for. It certainly was long past the SNR days. So I thought maybe this will give my career a little bit of a boost. Shit, you can't.
You're on the Springer show.
Being on the Springer show, what better, that's the pinnacle. And so they said, get in touch with the producer. So I called him up, and he says, yeah, here's what we're going to do. We'll give you $200. Hey, back at, that's great. I'll do it. Put you up in a hotel room, fly you in on a Monday morning. You do the taping. We'll fly you back to Minneapolis. That's great. And then I said, and what will I be doing on the, I thought the Springer show was legit. I certainly didn't know that things were, pre-planned and, things like that. He said, we want you to play the role of a sex-craved televangelist. sex craved and sex starved, yes. But as far as the televangelist part of it, so I'm thinking to myself, all right, people know me, and now I'm weighing this. Do I stay in bed, get up, and eat a bagel and cream cheese in front of the television set, or do I take advantage of going to Chicago, picking up $200, staying in a hotel, and being on nationwide television and playing this televangelist? I opted to stay home.
No, really?
I did.
You
did
didn't
not
do
get
it?
No. I waited, and I thought to myself, is this really going to benefit my career to play a sex craved? I mean, everybody knew I was sex starved, sex craved.
New?
Anyway.
No, not new. No. Present tense, past tense. You know what? It doesn't matter. Let's get back to the Springer story.
It really doesn't matter. But yeah, I unfortunately I passed up the $200 as I look at it now in hindsight. And SNR was dissolving, and then working for $20 for independent promotion probably would have been a good idea. I don't know that I would have had what they would have done with me if I would have gone on there as Oral Roberts or who I would have been.
Or that's a good name for a televangelist.
Yeah, it sure
Sex
is.
crazed Oral Roberts.
No, so folks at home, you were deprived of the opportunity to see the slick evangelist. And I was deprived of the $200 and probably staying at the Air Host in Chicago, where Bobby Heenan said, they had hot and cold running rats. So it was, there's your story there.
All right. Well,
I would have been better off with Baby, the blow-up doll.
Man,
I would have done.
You would have done the baby thing?
Absolutely.
Really?
Give me a blow-up doll and $200? Are you kidding me? Me?
Well, why the televangelist when that it's a gimmick? I mean, but I guess maybe you're more comfortable with the blow up dolls.
That's
so
exactly
I understand.
what it was.
It's your comfort level.
I had no experience being a televangelist. The blow up doll, on the other hand,
Okay, I understand. Well, we do have a couple more pictures here that I'm going to go ahead and put up. There is a. Here's one with the last thing. I want to talk about this one picture that I've got from the show, from the Impact Pro Wrestling show. Before we get to the end, I feel like that's probably the way. This was maybe one of the highlights of the show. Captain Stabbin, not Captain. What's his name? No, it's not Captain Stabbin. That's a different thing. I called him Captain Stabbin. Anyway, but Nick, you tell it because you're just a better storyteller.
The man is a heel manager.
Yes.
And he does a great job at it. Very flamboyant. And the captain got involved in a match and unfortunately, wound up getting the shit kicked out of him. Tossed outside the ring. Now, I got to explain that the wrestlers and the referee had all gone back to the locker room already.
Lights are up.
This is probably like 10 minutes after the match is over, and the captain is still on the floor selling it. So Chris went up to the captain, and, I got to give both of them credit. Neither one of them cracked a smile. Neither one of them, broke into laughter. They maintained their positions. But this is Chris Tubbs, and God love Chris Tubbs. We knew he was a great podcaster. We knew he's a man about town. We did not know that he was a pseudo paramedic. And here he is attempting, I guess, by maybe waving his hands in the air to revive the fallen, downtrodden captain. It didn't work, at least not for an extra 15, 20 minutes we left. Captain might still be laying there. I don't know. But, good for you, Chris, for being the good Samaritan. When they say, hey, there's a doctor in the house, Chris Tubbs, ladies and gentlemen, came stumbling out of the bleachers. And by God, he went over there and he tried to help the captain.
I did. I tried to help the captain because, he was down for a good 10 to 15 minutes after the show. And I went over and I asked if he was okay, and there was no response. I checked I checked the pulse. Thankfully, he was still there, but I was like, I didn't know what else to do. So,
well,
when you don't feel like when you feel like you can't help anybody, you just take a picture.
Exactly right. When all else fails, I mean, you didn't try CPR, thank God, but what you did when all else failed, you said, hey, get a picture of this so we can put this over on the podcast. And if that's not helping a guy, I don't know what is. There's some philanthropy award or something that is going to be going to you, Chris. I'm all broken up over this.
Well, I asked him if we could do a weekend at Bernie's thing, and I didn't get a response. So I just
the man died.
Well, that's what I figured. I had to take matters into my own hands.
He flatlined, Chris.
Yeah, if you ever want to see a dead body, that was it.
If we get two more pictures in this,
we got 2 more pictures.
Then we call a podcast.
Yes,
okay.
And hopefully you guys are having a good time. We had a great time. I think that's the ultimate underlying. Okay.
Chris, can I set this up before you put the pictures up?
You know what? Why don't you set it up? Okay, I'm going to sit back here. I'm going to let you set it up because I don't know where you're going to go with it.
Waterloo is not the biggest town in the world. The entertainment in Waterloo is, kind of at a premium. There are some bars and restaurants and what have you, some clubs, some biker bars and so forth. People have always asked me, and I mean always, I always get this question at least once or twice. What do you guys do in Waterloo after the show is all over, after the lights have gone down or, whatever it is? And we had a paparazzi, and we won't mention who his name is, but he followed us. And first of all, let's get a picture of the pass, the official VIP guest pass. Chris, if you've got that available, there it is right there. You had to really be somebody who is somebody in order to get this guest pass. It's not like
they offered me the free cover. You notice that? They look like this guy doesn't have any money. They looked at you and they're like, we feel like you've got money. You didn't get a free pass.
No, I didn't. Well, they figured I'd spend my money inside if I decided, to lower my standards and go in there. But here, the Flirt's Risque Gentlemen's Club, it's not like these guys were handing out business cards on the street or anything. God knows we would never participate in something like that.
Never.
But when you ask, what do we do, or at least what does Chris Tubbs do in his off hours in Waterloo? Have we got that follow-up picture there, Chris?
We do.
Look at that. And you're such a private guy and such a humble guy. Notice he's shushing everybody. This is literally a kayfabe moment when Chris Tubbs is imbibing in the Waterloo, Iowa entertainment scene, the nightlife. He's going into the Flirt's Gentlemen's Club. I have a couple of questions. First of all, Gentlemen's Club, they should have banned you immediately. The other thing is, you see that no loitering sign.
Yes.
You were in front of that building for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I was like Jake and Silent Bob outside. That's what I was.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were breaking the law already by loitering, completely ignoring.
I was waiting for the free pass to get in.
Yeah, and, I didn't see you till the next morning. So I'm not sure what goes on in there.
Because you caught me at the ATM because I lost all my ones the night before. But you know what? Cinnamon and Destiny are going to have a couple of good nights. So that's what's important.
Are those two blow up dolls?
No, that's there was no baby. Although we did call somebody baby, and she just kind of snapped it. She's like, no, she didn't want to be called baby.
That's what we do in Waterloo. That's what you do in Waterloo.
What I do in Waterloo.
I was probably, staying in the hotel there, probably just, watching TV.
You were at home. You were at the hotel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. Anything else we have to say about this?
God, no.
I mean, this one, it's funny because it's like, I felt like with Joe, we had to do a lot of things really fast. And then it's like, then he left. And it's like, we just kind of like the stories then just kind of, we really got to change because I want to be respectful of Joe's time because he did legitimately have something that he had to do. So, but I didn't want to shortchange a lot of these stories. And I'm sure we probably glazed over some of them too.
But you know what? You did a good deed too, because now on our schedule, we could cross off the Joe Hennig special that we were going to do because you covered that today. I mean, you pretty much delineated anything anybody would ever want to know about our friend Hank Hennig, not Joe Hennig, and so now we don't have to do that.
We don't have to do well. I mean, we can still talk to Hank. I can text him, but
cost cutting measure. Hank's a big shot now. You know, he's going to want some money to be on this podcast.
Yeah, he is, and people still don't know who he is. How the fuck do you not know? You think I'm fucking full of bullshit? You fucking